Hi, everyone. I am Adele and your co-host and founder of Find Your Inner Sparkle. I'm a dedicated yoga teacher and therapist and a spiritual coach. And I'm passionate about helping busy professional women to overcome their fears, unlock their true potential, and reignite the spark within.
And I'm Margaret, a true pioneer in the realm of women's health. As an anti-diet coach and acclaimed author, I'm really on a mission to empower women in their unique health journeys. My expertise isn't just about addressing hormonal health, but transforming lives by unlocking confidence, enhancing your communication, and boosting energy through cycle tracking and mindful nutrition. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to my Mood and Food podcast. And today we're all about breathing yourself calm.
Lovely.
Now, I don't know how many people I've seen doing breathing techniques, breathing this, breathing that. And I'm going to be a bit honest. I've There's quite a few people when I mention, well, if you tried breathing exercises, just sorry, if you're actually not watching and listening to us, I just literally rolled my eyes.
Don't you roll your eyes out loud at me.
I know the huge benefits of breathing better, shall we say? Like because there's a load of scientific evidence out there now about breathing better.
Mhm.
And when I mean breathing better, it's transferring the breath from the chest down to the abdominals, is that right? Yeah,
To the belly, the
to the
abdomen.
belly. Yeah, the abdominals.
Abdominals are your muscles, but
Muscles.
it's
Dear
fine, it's
God.
fine, it's fine. We'll edit that
We've
out.
had a break. We've had a break.
We
Sorry.
don't edit, just so we've not mistakenly left it in.
But yeah, when you're breathing into your belly rather than your chest area. So I know a lot of scientific backed evidence about that. And there's a load of different breathing techniques out there that you
Yeah.
can do to calm the mind, which I think is more than what we'll be covering today, but also to energize as well. And there's lots of different techniques. So I'll pass over to you, Adele, because although I know a lot, I think you're a bit more of an expert about it than I am.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, you're right. And breathing is becoming more trendy, isn't it? And more popular. And I think we just need to be careful who we're following and what wisdom we're following. And just maybe we were chatting a little bit before we started recording there, just use our discernment to ask some questions sometimes rather than just someone off the internet gives you a breath exercise and pretends to be the expert. Maybe they're not, and just question where that's come from, and whether it's properly scientifically tested or being used for a long time to be able to be tested and tried on lots of people, like what we have from the yogis that have come from thousands and thousands of years. Um, and what we get sometimes is this kind of blurred lines where people have picked it up and thought, oh, I like the sound of that. And then everyone starts teaching it. A couple of things um, that I just wanted to mention before we do or I talk about the exercises or the techniques that we can use to calm ourselves, which is what we're talking about today. We have done other episodes on breathing, I know, but this is particularly about how do we use breath to calm us.
Mm.
Um, is Some of these trendy techniques are using this fast breathing that's very common. It's popular, it's trendy, it's all about kind of the cold water swimming and things like
Yeah.
that. So just a word of caution there, particularly if you are someone that has got this kind of nervous energy or this kind of excited energy, or you're like A-type personality like I am. And you might throw yourself into something like that. I tend to do that. If you think something's going to work and it's been told to you that it's trained to you by this professional and et cetera, you then might start doing it every day and thinking it's super good for you. So you'll do it every day. Maybe you do it 3 times a day. And you might find you're having the opposite effect that you want. So for some people, this might work to calm them down, but for others, it doesn't, and it can have quite damaging effects actually if we do too much fast breathing. And like I said at the beginning there, if we just use our common sense and we think about it, what happens when we're stressed to our breath?
It goes quicker. It goes
Yeah,
shallower.
goes
It's like,
shallower, it's
yeah,
up here, it's really quite fast. Um, and what happens also, we might hold our breath
yeah,
in fear. And so if we're doing fast breathing and holding the breath, and also if we're not ready for a long retention of breath, you know, suddenly holding it for a minute or 2 minutes when we're not used to that,
mm,
that will invoke a fear response, i.e., a stress response. And so to me, that's just common sense. That makes total sense. So
mm,
logical. So really, if you're wanting to have a calming effect, too much fast breathing could like kick off your nervous
yeah.
system really rather
Have
than
the
calm it
absolute
down.
opposite.
Yeah.
Opposite.
And the one thing that, in my training, which comes from Krishnamacharya, who was considered the father of modern yoga and been handed down directly to a family called the Mohans, and the teacher actually learned with Krishnamacharya these techniques for 20 years or so, and then passed them down to us, is if you go in hell for leather with breathing and you don't know what you're doing, you can actually really do some damage. It's
Yeah.
not like if you hurt your arm, you sprain your wrist or something and it just heals really quickly. It can really be difficult to unravel that damage and it really takes work with a, really good
Mm.
yoga teacher or breath practitioner who knows what they're doing to work to slowly unravel some of that. So it's not to scare anyone, but it's just to say, just be mindful of what you're
Yeah.
doing and don't just go on like Instagram and follow somebody and think this sounds great and then just go and do it and then, not do it in moderation. So if someone's doing a bit of fast breathing and they've just done it, a few times, it'd be fine. But for some people, if you're doing it over and over again for long periods, just be careful. So what I'm going to advocate instead is slow breathing, which makes more sense. We can use fast breathing. What if we're feeling sluggish? What if we're feeling tired? And what if we're just really almost, what if you've got a little bit of a depression and you're
Yeah.
really struggling with your mood?
Mm.
Like if you've ever had a depression, like you can't really even get out of bed, that get yourself dressed. It's difficult to do anything. So a little bit of fast breathing with the right guidance can be useful. But if you're wanting to calm yourself down, and to bring your nervous system into balance because it's heightened through stress, anxiety, whatever, just being busy, then you want to slow your breath down. So there's a few things that we want to do. We want to, first of all, make sure that we're breathing through the nose.
Yeah.
We'll not go into all the science. We've done another, I think, episode about that, but there is lots of evidence to talk
Yeah.
about inhaling through the nose. We want to breathe in through the nose. We want to try and slow it down rather than speed it up.
Mm.
So we can do that in a few ways. One way would just be just to notice your breath because everyone's different. So again, you might see ratios out there on the internet. Breathe in for 4 and hold for 6 and exhale for 8 or whatever it might be. But
Depends how many
sometimes
you
it's
can do, can't it?
it's kind of like, well, who made that up and why is that useful? And what if I teach all the time people who can't retain the breath for 4 seconds, it
Mm.
feels a lot. So then if you're like, oh, you're trying to get to 6,
Mm.
you could be doing more harm than good. So these square breathing is a popular one, 4 in, hold for 4 out. But what we're going to do now is kind of have a little go at slowing the breath down. So we'll get quiet. It's not going to look like or sound like we're doing a lot, but if you're listening in, you can have a go at this. So we're just going to get really quiet. We're going to breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the nose or the mouth. So if you want to, actually, it's good to exhale through the mouth. It will help you to slow your breath down. You can do this using a straw because it's going to narrow the exhale. It's going to make the vehicle, receptacle, whatever you want to call it, smaller, isn't it? So it will
Yeah.
take longer to breathe out. But we've not got a straw handy here now, so we could just purse the lips. So kind of like as if you're blowing into a little tube. Or you can breathe out through your nose. It's up to you. So we'll just do that for a few rounds of our own breath. And just if you're okay to kind of count roughly like 1, 2, 3 as you breathe in and out. You can do that. And then over a few rounds of breath, when you've just got an idea of how long your breath is, see if you can extend it just for like 1 or 2 seconds. So say if you start and you get to 3 or 4, maybe you can try and slow it down so your inhale and exhale is more like 5 or 6. If you're already easily at 6, perhaps you're a swimmer or a yogi or something like that, or runner, and your breath is already quite long, go for 7 or go for 8. Yeah, makes sense?
Makes loads of sense.
So let's have a go. So we'll sit up. It's nice to sit up because if we're slumped, we're not open here
Yeah.
with our chests collapsed. So sit up nice and tall, close your eyes or drop your gaze, and just find your own breath, your natural breath. So it might take a few rounds just to get a sense of that. When you found it, just try and add on 1 or 2 seconds. So you're just actively encouraging it to slow down. And if you're struggling, don't forget to use the little pursed lips to exhale so you can help your exhale to just go a little longer. Now you might notice that your inhale and exhale are similar, equal. We call that Sama Vritti. Or you might notice that your exhale is longer, especially if you're using the little pursed lips. So just over the next few breaths, see if you can make your exhale slightly longer than your inhale. So if you are breathing in for something like 6 or 7, see if you can breathe out for 1 or 2 seconds longer. And don't forget, you can use the lips to narrow the passageway, and that will help to elongate the breath. Good. And then just let that go. So let the counting go. Just breathe normally. And then just place your hand on your belly, one hand or 2 hands, doesn't matter. And as you breathe in, see if you can notice any movement there. And if you don't feel any, perhaps it's more in your chest. So you could place one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest. Again, first of all, just notice what's happening naturally without shifting or changing your breath. And then see if you can actively encourage the hand that's on the belly to move just by using your breath. So as you breathe in, see if you can get your belly to feel as if it is inflating. And as you breathe out, just let it go. Breathing in, belly rises. Exhale, release. Couple more. You can also do this lying down if you are struggling to feel that movement in the belly. It can be handy to place a little book with a little weight or a yoga block or something like that on your tummy and just see if you can get it to move with your in-breath. One more. Maybe take a little sigh. And when you're ready, blink your eyes open. Just notice how you feel. Maybe have a little look around the room, reorient yourself in the space. Maybe you have a stretch.
But exhale,
So how are we feeling?
Oh, lovely. Absolutely lovely. It really does. The power of the breath really, really does work to calm that system down. But
Mm,
could you answer a question for me? Um, and I've heard the answer once or twice, but I can't put my finger on it again at the moment. Why is it that we need to extend our breathing out?
yes, good question. Thank you. So there's a few things that are useful for calming the nervous system, a few different aspects of the breath. So I'm going to touch on those now. So we want to slow the breath down, which is why I got you to just notice your natural breath and to maybe extend it a little bit. And then the next thing I got you to do was to extend your exhale. And that's because we're working on feeling calm. So the two phases of the breath, you've got the in breath. Well, there are four phases because you've got your little pauses, but let's go just with the in breath and out breath. So
Mm,
the in breath is the activating part of the breath, the
mm,
energizing part of the breath. So our in breath, if you can do this, we'll not do it now in the interest of time, but you can do this by using your Fitbit or using, your fingers on your pulse, and you can feel into you should have heart rate variability with every breath. So your heart rate speeds up a little bit when you breathe in because it's your sympathetic nervous
mm.
system, that side of the breath. Your parasympathetic nervous system is your exhale. So as you exhale, again, makes sense, right? What I'm
Yep.
saying makes logical sense. Exhale is so it's activate and deactivate. So heart rate faster, heart rate slower, heart rate faster, heart rate slower. So it makes sense to make longer the part of the breath that is going to activate your calm and your rest and digest response,
Mm,
i.e., the parasympathetic nervous system, when we want to calm down. Okay, so that's why we want to extend, and we want to extend it. You could say, how much? So
mm,
that's where like these ratios come in, and someone might say, you've got to breathe out for 7 or 9, or it doesn't matter. It's actually pointless, really, to just put your finger in the air and come up with a number. If your exhale is normally like quite short, just extending it to breathe out for a count of 6 might be really useful in that portion of the breath for you. I was breathing out then with the pursed lips as well for something like 10 or 12 seconds, because I do a lot of yoga and breath is longer. So it doesn't matter, but it's the point of what are we doing, why are we doing it for, understanding that it makes total sense and playing with that, working with that, doing a little bit of it every day. If you're somebody that does struggle with stress and anxiety, will be really useful. I know, Margaret, you work with people before they eat, so doing
yeah.
something like that would be really useful before you sit down to eat.
Mm,
Um, just before you go into a meeting, if you're rushing around to go into a meeting and you're feeling super stressed, doing some of those. So that's the answer to that, the exhale. So the phase of the breath is important. The other thing we looked at there is where to breathe.
mm,
And as you mentioned, chest, belly, I got you to direct your breath down into the belly because again, what, like we said earlier, where does your breath go when you're stressed? Up here.
Okay, in the
So
chest, yeah.
your body is always reading the signals, and through the vagal nerve it's passing that back to the brain, and the body, the mind, and the breath is very, very intrinsically linked. So we can affect our breath, or affect our breath, can never get that right, by our stress response,
Yeah.
knowingly or unknowingly. We feel stressed, we've got stressful thinking, body gets stressed, breath gets stressed. Therefore, we can reverse that process, reverse engineer it, and by being brilliant humans, we can decide we're going to sit and do some breathing, and then we can reverse that process, and we can send the message back that actually we're not stressed, everything's okay,
Mm.
because our breathing is now down into the belly. The message goes back that we're calm. Does it make
Yeah.
sense? Because when we're in a stress response, we wouldn't be belly breathing, we'd be breathing
No.
up here, and we'd be practically hyperventilating, doing that fast breathing.
Mm.
So it makes sense, right? So that's why we did those few things. And there are other things we can do with the breath, but won't go into any more, I think, today, because I think that's enough just to think about how you're breathing, where you're breathing, and what kind of breathing you're doing, and to make sure that it makes sense
Yeah.
and see
Mm.
how it feels. Yeah, if slow breathing helps, do more of it.
Yeah. And it's something I think that's very much, oh, well, quite obviously individual to every single person.
Mhm.
You know, as you said, there's a lot of breathing techniques out there which might not necessarily work for every single person, and it's understanding where you are
Yeah.
with your breath.
It's meeting yourself where you're at. So for some people, the fast breathing might feel like it does something, it might
Mm.
feel like it works, but you also get that you get that rush, that high, because it's like that hyperventilation. So that's
Yeah.
why it feels good for for some people, but that's not always a
No, not
good
at all.
thing.
And if you are doing that type of breathing, flip a neck, whatever you do, sit down when you're doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and try some other breath techniques.
Yeah.
Just question what you're doing, make sure
Mm.
that it feels right, make sure that you feel comfortable doing it, and that you don't feel stressed by holding the breath for any length of time. Again, we can come on to breath retention another time. There's also like the different sides of the nostril. There's different
Mm.
sides of the nostril which are more for energizing and more for calming and things like that. So we can do another episode for sure if people want it. So let us know. Did you find it useful? Have you tried the breathing? How was it?
Yeah, absolutely. Give us a comment down there if you have tried the breathing. If you're still awake, because I'm feeling
Mm.
like I need to sleep now.
Yeah, good. That's a good point actually. That I didn't mention. Obviously, time of the day as well.
Mm,
It You can do this anytime, because if you're feeling stressed and anxious, it's of course useful. But obviously, it would be really good to do at night to calm you down, to
definitely,
get you ready for sleep and things like that. Whereas if
definitely.
you were wanting to activate yourself to get ready for a busy day, you don't want to be
Nope.
doing too much of the slow breathing, and feel like you can't bother doing anything.
Fabulous, Adele. Oh, that was a really, really a good exercise to do. Absolutely, and very much needed, I feel,
Mm.
because as you said, and as I know, there are quite a few different recommendations, shall we say, for breathing out there. And it is really just finding out which one is best for you personally and questioning if
Yeah, don't
something
just
doesn't
take
feel
something as
right.
read. Just
Yeah.
that's the best thing to do. Just and ask yourself why. Why would that work?
Mm.
Ask questions of the person that's teaching you. Where's all the science and the evidence to back this up? Are there any cases where it has not worked or whatever?
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, thank you very, very
Thank you
much.
very
That was
much.
very insightful, very relaxing. Thank you
Lovely.
so much.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
we'll catch you on the next podcast. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.